Right, so game 2 between Firesrest and Seli is going to be Eternal Empire. It's a massive map, this. It's a big old map. So Firesrest in the top right of the map and Seli down in the bottom left. Firesrest opening literally with depot first, not even a worker in production. And we saw that last game. I'll be honest, I don't like it. The first thing you should do is build a worker. Literally, straight away, you build a worker. You don't need that. You build workers. It's what you do. Now what we saw in the last game. What we saw in the last game was Firesrest. Hang on, there we go. Lagged behind a little bit at the start of the game, but quickly caught up with tech and cranked out 2 cloak banshees. Seli couldn't see the cloak banshees, lost quite a few workers and just tapped out straight away. Unfortunately did get marines under them, but didn't drop the scan, so the marines just died too. Frustratingly, he did have energy for the scan. All he had to do was pop that scan, and those were dead banshees. You don't really want to fight marines with your banshees unless you've got a significant sort of number advantage. It takes fairly intensive micro to keep banshees alive against marines. That's it's not impossible, but it's a fiddly business. So really, what you want to be doing is killing these workers, which he successfully did. So I couldn't help but feel that Seli tapped out a little early, but there we have it. And Firesrest is 1 game up. So the eBay is coming down pretty early here for Seli. And the eBay, we love an early eBay in the EMS tournament, don't we? And that will mean that he can build turrets. So if he's worried about a repeat performance, he can just throw a turret down here, and that'll keep him safe. There is the turret coming down, and that will provide the detection he needs. So he should be absolutely fine from a similar build. A pretty quick tech from Firesrest. No units out yet whatsoever. No tech lab on the racks, which makes me curious. Why do you build such an early gas to then not tech? I don't quite get it. Anyway, a couple of marines are now in production and the factory's in production. No sign of an expo though, nothing down here yet. Seli meanwhile has gone for the pretty standard command center timing. Again, has got a reactor here rather than a tech lab. The double Reaper is going to pop out very, very soon, and it will handily see this Reaper off, and that's going to be handy for him. I don't know where that guy's going. So Reaper battles often come down to just who got the first shot off, but once it's 2 against 1, this Reaper gets cleaned up very, very quickly indeed, and didn't really have much to show for it. Did kill the worker building this factory though, and I don't know if Seli's realized that yet. He needs to replace the worker on that, otherwise that factory will just sit there. Has now done that. So not too much damage done, a slight delay on this factory. Starport is coming in for Firesrest, so we'll quickly know whether he does have the same thing in mind. It certainly looks awfully similar. Double starport this early in the game. Double starport off 1 base. What else is it going to be but banshees? So expect to see tech labs coming down on these, or a swap with the factory. Although at present, building a siege tank, he's going to try and make sure he's safe with a defensive siege tank. And there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Siege tanks are superb units in defensive positions. So Seli with another racks coming down. No sign of a starport. And still no tech lab on the barracks. So, despite marines coming out 2 at a time, they are going to be soft marines, pretty squishy indeed. I don't think there was any upgrades. There wasn't. This is the same build as we saw before from Firesrest. We've got the double tech lab here. He is researching cloak, but weirdly there's no banshees in production. I don't. If you're researching cloak for the banshees, why aren't you building the banshees? It doesn't quite have enough gas for that yet. I suppose he did spend some on the siege tank, and a double starport is a bit spicy as well. There's a strong argument that he'd actually have 2 cloak banshees out sooner if he'd only built 1 starport. In general, if you get the starport out, swap it onto a tech lab that you've built on a barracks, you start cloak and you start a Banshee at the same time. And by the time your Banshee is out and across the map, cloak is finished. So I'd really like to see these Reapers get in to Firesrest base and have a look around, because if you do get in and look around, you see this stuff, you see the tech labs, and it's pretty unusual to have a tech lab on a starport unless you're planning something. This Reaper gets in and does a little bit of light harass, but gets cleaned up very, very quickly. Not sure if it actually got any kills there. No, it didn't. So yeah, I want these to go in and have a look around. The two Banshees are now out, cloak is finished, and Firesrest is going to send those across the map. You can't help but feel, though, that this time they are not really going to get anything done with this turret in position. Now, Seli, with that said, does need to be a bit careful. I don't really know, I've never done the sums on it. If you focus down a turret with two Banshees, and pull back, the turret will only shoot one of them, you pull it back before it goes down, presumably you can snipe the turret before the Banshees go down, I would imagine. So Seli needs to be on top of that. As soon as this starts taking fire, he can pull some workers, maybe these three that are doing nothing, for example, and just get the repair going on that turret, and so long as he does that, the turret stands strong. Alternatively, send the Marines across to add to the fire output. So Tech Lab finishes researching combat shield, and that is all good. Not much happening in the way of upgrades in this game. We're 6.5 minutes in, and combat shield only just done for Seli. The only upgrade that Firesrest has is in fact cloak for these Banshees. Again, deciding to cloak these in advance. So in they come, and the turret is going to go ahead and open fire. The range here, if we look from the point of view of Seli, he just needs to pull these SCVs out of the way, just pull them towards the turret. These can move, but if you keep them still, they're just all going to die. Again, there is a scan available, but there just doesn't seem to be any response here. I'm not sure what he's doing. What are you doing, Seli? What are you doing? Are you looking at this? As far as I can tell, you are, but you're just watching them die and thinking they'll be right. No, kill this stuff. Look, you can see these. They're within range of the turret, so you can see them. Kill them. Do them in. Don't let them just kill all your stuff. Shoot them. So these Marines come out, and unfortunately, this Banshee is just out of range of the turret, but then ran out of energy and so uncloaked. So quite a lot of damage done. 17 workers killed in that exchange, and you can see that now that's an enormous advantage for Firesrest. So let's see if you can convert that into the victory. It's 34 workers to 19. Terrifyingly, despite that, there's only one SCV in production. You've got 2 command centers. Let's see some more SCVs, please, being produced. This Reaper he's high or something. I don't know what he's been taking, but he's just leaping up and down a cliff there. Look. Seli taking a little bit of unnecessary damage. You had the turrets, just move the SCVs out of the way. Don't let them stand there and take a piss in. This drop then coming in. Let's see what this can get done. Looks like a turret is coming down for Firesrest. The Cyclone with the lock on will actually pick off this medevac pretty quickly, but it does manage to get the unload. These Hellions can do quite a lot of damage to this ground stuff, but there just aren't really any workers here to kill, and that does get cleaned up reasonably. So in the end, only one worker getting picked off there. I'm a little bit curious. Hang on, where were the workers? Did Firesrest just pull the workers like an absolute boss really quickly when that stuff flew in? Did he? Is that what just happened? Saw this coming in and responded well. Just pulled the workers. You see that right there is how you do it. If the workers are in danger, just pull them to safety. There you go. Job done. As a result, doesn't really lose much. So if the Hellion drop is a potent thing, there's no two ways about it, and it can certainly get a lot of stuff done. What you want it to be doing, though, you want your Hellions fighting workers, basically. So in general, you boost the medevacs in. Don't lose this medevac; those are expensive, dude. Bring that home. Bring it home. Don't let that just get all shot up. You boost the medevacs in. So as they're flying across here, you hit B and you fly them in nice and sharpish, and you get the drop done. And you try and roast those workers, chase the workers as they're running, because when you pull all the workers and you send them towards over here, what they'll do is form a lovely straight line. So if the Hellions are behind that, remember they do splash in straight lines, you can actually torch the workers really badly because they're running, and that can do an awful lot of favors. So army supplies are relatively even, but let's have a look at the actual unit composition. It's 39 Marines with only one medevac for Seli. Meanwhile, it's a Thor, it's 2 Thors, in fact, it's some Siege Tank, Marauder, Marine, and Cyclone. So, while the army supplies are relatively even, the armies themselves are not. Now, with that said, Seli is moving across the map here, has got +1 armor. And that's going to be useful, but +1 armor and +1 attack and +1 mech for Firesrest means that Firesrest army should essentially just crush this, especially if he sieges up. Now, with all that said, a lot of this stuff is actually slightly hurt from tackling those Hellions previously. So Seli potentially gets the best snipe here because Firesrest appears to be running away from it. But the army does finally move across, and it should be able to mop this up pretty handily. Those Marines dying fairly quickly to the output from 3 Thors and 2 Siege Tanks. So, a pretty nasty cleanup there. But the third does get picked off. With that said, Seli himself hasn't actually finished his own third, so isn't yet gonna sort of gain an advantage per se from that, but does prevent him from slipping behind economically. So you can see that the incomes are reasonably even at present, but that gas income, what is going on there? Let's have a peek. Just isn't mining gas from the natural at all. So if he's relying on marine production, you're definitely going to need more racks than that, aren't you? Anyway, this stuff is coming, and it just doesn't look like there's enough to defend. Maybe with the siege tanks in this forward position, sieged up, you can get an awful lot of hurt on the stuff coming through this choke, but he needs to respond straight away. Now that there's 3 siege tanks, yes, this is defensible, needs to pull the workers, needs to be repairing the bunker. The siege tanks are sieging up on the high ground. They're definitely going to get a lot of work done on this. The medevac, the Viking, can give sight of these siege tanks, but they are very well positioned here. So this is not a pleasant engagement for Firesrest. Luckily, the Marines didn't really join in, but now that they have joined in, it looks like Seli's going to be able to clean this up relatively straightforwardly. Wants to pull the medevac back a little bit, doesn't want it to just be getting wrecked by the Thor. So a little bit slow on the response, but ultimately did get those siege tanks into that high ground position and siege them up. Again, the Marines a little bit slow to respond, but ultimately did manage to respond and cleaned that up pretty handily. And you can see that whole army got obliterated. So the army supply now swings in favor of Seli. Let's have a look at the income tab. This is a fair old back and forth, isn't it? Both of the players have had their time sort of out front in this game in some way or another. Seli's third has finished up, but I think he's forgotten about it. There's no workers in production, so this third stands idle, and that's a real shame. You've got 3 CCs that you can be building SCVs from, so you can be building workers 3 at a time. So it really shouldn't take long to saturate this. You can just hold down the S button and get these workers mining as quickly as you can. You've also got quite a lot of energy on this CC to drop mules, and I'd like to see the natural converted to an orbital as well, and this converted to an orbital or a planetary, I suppose, if you're not feeling very confident. So production wise, it is happening relatively slowly in Seli's camp and much quicker in Firesrest's camp, and I mean that from a supply point of view. There's only 2 Thors building, but each Thor is 4 or 5 or 6 or 20 supply or something, who knows. So if your opponent's building Thors, for every Thor they build, you need to be building 6 Marines, and you're not. You've only got these 2 racks, 3 bases, 2 racks. You've got more command centers than barracks. That is not the way to go. You can happily run 3-4 racks off a single CC. So, you know, by the time you're up to 3 command centers, you should definitely have 10 barracks if it's a Marine army that you're going for. Also needs medevacs. This is desperately short of medevacs. I don't think he has stim. I could be wrong. So this, I don't know about this move out. We'll see what he gets done here. Needs to get these siege tanks sieged. Needs to siege those up pretty fast. Isn't at present. They're just moving in, and in fact it is Firesrest that gets his siege tanks sieged first, and they're just going to literally, you know, far too late with the siege up, far too late, and taps out. Again, I'll be honest, the tap out a little bit premature. I mean, why are you tapping out when you've got 3 bases? Your production hasn't suffered at all. You know, it's not like your opponent's destroyed your ability to produce units. It hasn't been touched. You haven't lost substantial workers, apart from in that sort of early harass from the Banshees. So I can't help but feel that was a bit of an early tap out. I mean, yeah, you lost a bunch of units right there. Yeah, you didn't really have much of an army left. But, you know, I don't think you were out of the game. Maybe Seli just felt like he didn't really know how to beat this army, but you know, he should remind himself that when this army pushed up this ramp and tried to have at him, he basically crushed it. He destroyed it. You know, so he does have the tools at his fingertips. So if you are playing bio against a mech army like that, the things you need, you've got to have stim, you've got to have medevacs. You absolutely have to. You need the upgrades. You know. Marines are savage. 200 supply Marines has one of the highest DPSs in the game. The damage output from it is absolutely savage, but they've got to be 3-3. You know, we're 14 minutes in. You need those upgrades. You need the double E-bays, and you need them cranking out the upgrades. You need the medevacs, as I said. Ideally, you need siege tank support, but in addition to that, you need some tanky stuff at the front. You need to crank out those marauders to just take some shots to the face. You know, if your opponent is going mech, Thors do big damage, siege tanks do the splash damage. You've got to have something with a bit of armor to soak up some damage for you, and marauders do an excellent job of that. So you do need a few marauders mixed in as well, but stim is just so important. You know, it so increases the damage output from your Marines. You come to a position like this, you hit stim, and you just run to here and then hit the hold button or hit the stop button. And you will focus this stuff down so very quickly. Your siege tank maneuvers, you know, you never really want all your siege tanks rolling up a ramp simultaneously. What you want is to have a couple sieged, and then you sort of leapfrog them. So you move the next one to here and siege it, and then this one to here and siege and siege and siege and siege, so that at any given time most of your siege tanks are in siege mode, doling out that splash damage, and you kind of grind them forward, and you prevent your opponent from hurting them because they're surrounded by these stim Marines that are fast and have such a high DPS. Yeah, so, you know, yeah, that end battle was reasonably convincing. But if you rewind and you control the bio army well, that could have went very differently. So actually, arguably a pretty quick, a pretty level game, even if it didn't look like it at the end. Anywho, there it is. Firesrest wins 2-0. GG.